Adeline Todd was about to make the biggest mistake of her life, or perhaps the most brilliant decision, and it all began with a poorly made coffee in a cafe that smelled of cinnamon and second chances. She shouldn't have been there. She should have been at Todd Luxury Hotel's headquarters in central London, signing multi-million-pound contracts, whilst her mother, Margaret, commanded the boardroom like a general on a battlefield. But that Thursday morning, she woke with a weight on her chest that no amount of diazepam could ease. It was the 3rd anniversary of her father Oliver's death, and the Kensington penthouse felt smaller with each breath. Adeline looked at Wellington, her grey Persian cat, who observed her with that characteristic feline disdain. "You think I'm a coward too, don't you?" she murmured, slipping into jeans, a mortal sin in the Todd wardrobe, and a beige linen blouse. Wellington yawned. By 7:30 in the morning, Adeline was already on the motorway heading to Cambridge, where the family maintained a countryside estate that no one had visited in years. Her mobile vibrated incessantly. Edward, her older brother, had left 17 voice messages. She switched the device off. The city welcomed her with an impossibly blue sky and quiet streets. Adeline parked near the central square and walked aimlessly, feeling strangely light. That's when she saw the discreet sign, the Roost Café. The cafe was tiny, with rustic wooden tables, plants hanging from the ceiling, and a blackboard announcing the day's special. Coffee with lemon drizzle cake, because Monday's gone, and you deserve this. It was Thursday, but the humour made her smile. "Good morning. What can I get you?" The voice was deep, calm, like someone who's in no hurry to get anywhere. Adeline raised her eyes and the world decelerated. The barista was in his early 30s, with slightly dishevelled dark hair and brown eyes that seemed to guard ancient secrets. He wore a simple black t-shirt and a canvas apron. There was something about him that seemed real, dangerously real. "Coffee, black, no sugar," she said, more curtly than intended. "Rough day?" he asked without sounding invasive. "Just kind." "You have no idea." He served the coffee in a blue ceramic cup and handed it to her with a slight smile. "Then this one's going to need to be perfect." Adeline tasted it, and it was perfect in a way that the coffees from £20,000 Italian machines in her penthouse never were. "What's the secret?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Attention," he replied, wiping the counter. "Most people make coffee on autopilot. I pay attention." She stayed there for an hour, pretending to read emails on her mobile, but actually observing the cafe's flow. The barista served each customer with the same calm, as if each order mattered. An elderly man in a cap came in, complaining about the heat. The barista offered him a glass of chilled water before even taking his order. When Adeline stood to leave, he asked, "Will you come back?" She hesitated. "I don't know, perhaps." "The coffee will be here," he said, with a half-smile that seemed to say much more. Over the next 3 days, Adeline returned, always at the same time, always ordering black coffee without sugar. On the second day, he asked her name. "Adeline." "Hunter," he responded, extending his hand across the counter. The handshake was firm, warm. She felt a shiver run up her spine. On the third day, Hunter brought the coffee accompanied by a slice of Victoria sponge. "On the house," he said. "I didn't order this." "I know, but you look like someone who needs a bit of sweetness in life." Adeline felt her face warm. She couldn't hold back the laugh. "Are you always this attentive with customers?" "Only with those who hide sadness behind sunglasses inside a cafe," he teased lightly. She removed her sunglasses. His eyes met hers, and something passed between them, something ancient and new at the same time. It was at this exact moment that old George from the square, a retired pensioner in a cap and sandals, who spent his afternoons sitting on the bench opposite the cafe, decided he'd witnessed the beginning of great gossip. He didn't know yet, but that encounter would change not just 2 lives, but explode into a scandal involving 2 of Britain's most powerful families. Because Hunter wasn't just a barista. Hunter was Hunter Stevens, son of Lord Stevens and Lady Stevens of the High Court, heir to a political empire that for decades had disputed power, contracts and influence with the Todds, And Adeline Todd, the lonely woman who entered his cafe seeking a moment of peace, was exactly who he should avoid at any cost. But it was already too late. The barista was already in love with the heiress, and she hadn't the slightest suspicion of who he really was. The first thing Margaret Todd did upon learning her daughter was missing in Cambridge was ring the family's private security manager and demand complete tracking. The second was to convene an emergency meeting with Edward. "She's having a breakdown," Margaret declared, lighting a lavender-scented electronic cigarette. 3 years since Oliver's death, and she still acts like a rebellious teenager. Edward, seated behind his mahogany desk, drummed his fingers. "Leave her be. The more we pressure her, the harder it'll be to bring her back. Adeline's always been dramatic." "Dramatic?" Margaret practically spat the word. "She's the only one with her father's sensitivity. If we're not careful, she'll end up donating her share to some dog's charity." Meanwhile, in Cambridge, Adeline was discovering that life could be incredibly simple when you removed your designer heels and accepted sitting on a plastic chair. She and Hunter had developed a routine. She arrived at 10 in the morning, when the rush cooled. He served the coffee and, gradually, spent more time chatting. They discovered they both loved Italian cinema, that she read poetry by Carol Ann Duffy and he preferred Seamus Heaney, that they both hated noisy parties and adored the silence of early morning hours. "Don't you work?" Hunter asked one morning with genuine curiosity. Adeline nearly choked on her coffee. "I work. With events. Public relations. Boring office things." Lying had never been her forte, but the truth was too complicated to fit into a cafe conversation. "Must be stressful," he commented, cleaning the espresso machine with a cloth. "You have no idea. And that's why you escaped to Cambridge?" "Something like that," Hunter smiled. "Welcome to the club of fugitives. Are you also running away?" He became serious for a moment. "Let's say I'm on strike from my own life." Adeline tilted her head, intrigued. "Is that possible? With you here having coffee every day, I'm starting to think it is." Her heart accelerated. Damn, this was getting dangerous. That afternoon, Sophie rang for the 10th time. Adeline finally answered. "For God's sake, Addie, your mother's having a fit. Edward's threatened to send the police after you." "How dramatic," Adeline grumbled, lying in the hammock on the country house veranda. "Dramatic? Love, you've disappeared from the company, switched off your mobile, and no one knows where you are." "I'm in Cambridge." Silence. "Cambridge? That city where there's what? Universities? There's an incredible cafe, and a barista who makes my heart beat faster." "What?" Sophie practically screamed. "Adeline Todd fancying a barista? Girl, I need to meet this man." "I'm not fancying anyone, we just chat." "Chat, yeah?" Sophie had that mocking tone. "The way you're talking, I imagine he's quite fit. He's different." "Oh, you're smitten then." Adeline laughed, but something bothered her. Hunter was too kind, too attentive, too interesting. Men like that didn't exist. Or they did, but always had a secret. The next day, Adeline arrived earlier. Hunter was still opening the cafe. She helped him arrange the chairs. "You don't need to," he said. "I know, but I want to." They worked side by side in comfortable silence. When they finished, Hunter prepared 2 coffees and sat with her. "Can I ask you an indiscreet question?" he said, hesitant. "You can. Why is a woman like you here, really?" Adeline took a deep breath. "Because out there, I'm someone's daughter, someone's sister, the heiress of something I didn't build. Here I'm just Adeline, and that's liberating." Hunter looked at her with an intensity that made her blush. "You're incredible. You know that?" "I'm not. I'm just someone tired of pretending." "Then don't pretend with me," he said, holding her hand on the table. Adeline felt the world stop. It was at that exact moment that old George from the square took a photo with his grandson's mobile and posted it to the WhatsApp group Central Square Gossip. "Everyone, the posh lady's dating Hunter. Romance brewing." The message was forwarded 17 times until it reached a group of Cambridge business people. One of them recognized Adeline. "Isn't that the Todd Hotel's heiress?" The bomb was armed, and no one yet knew that the explosion would destroy much more than secrets. Marcus Stevens didn't believe in coincidences. When his assistant showed him the photo of Hunter holding a woman's hand in a provincial cafe, he immediately ordered an investigation. 3 hours later, he had the complete dossier. Adeline Todd, 34 years old, single, director of institutional relations at Todd Hotels Group. Estimated fortune of £200 million. Marcus smiled. This was pure gold. He rang Richard, his brother, the Lord. "You need to see something." Lord Richard Stevens was in his chambers in Westminster when he opened the file. His expression hardened. "Is that boy stupid or suicidal?" "Both," Marcus replied. "But we can use this." "How?" "Imagine the scandal. Stevens' heir involved with political family enemy. We can force him back into the game. If he refuses, we leak it to the press. The Todds will destroy the girl, and we come out as victims." Richard hesitated. Lady Charlotte, his wife, entered the study at that moment. He put the mobile on speakerphone. "Charlotte, you need to hear this." She listened in silence. When Marcus finished, she said coldly, "Do whatever's necessary. Hunter needs to understand there's no life outside this family." Meanwhile, in Cambridge, Adeline and Hunter were completely oblivious to the storm forming. They'd arranged to have dinner together for the first time. Nothing sophisticated. A family pizzeria in the city centre. Adeline wore a simple navy blue cotton dress and let her hair down. Hunter appeared in a white shirt and jeans, smelling of soap and anxiety. "You look beautiful," he said, without beating about the bush. "So do you," she replied, blushing. The evening was perfect. They talked about everything: childhoods, abandoned dreams, secret fears. Hunter told her he had a mongrel called Biscuit and that he lived with his grandmother in an old townhouse. "Your grandmother must be special," said Adeline. "She's the only person in the family who understands me." Adeline noticed the hurt in his voice. "Complicated family?" "Very," he admitted. "And yours?" "Also. My brother thinks I'm weak. My mother thinks I'm inconvenient. My father," her voice failed, "my father was the only one who understood me." Hunter took her hand. "I'm sorry. It's been 3 years today. That's why you appeared at the cafe." She nodded, trying not to cry. "I needed to breathe. Then breathe here, with me." They kissed right there, at the table in the pizzeria, under the curious gaze of other customers. It was a slow, deep kiss that tasted of new beginnings and courage. Old George, who was dining 2 tables ahead, nearly knocked over his lemonade. "Confirmed, everyone. They're dating," he posted immediately. The photo of the kiss went viral in the Cambridge group within minutes. In 2 hours, it reached London. In 4, it was on Margaret Todd's desk. She rang Edward, distraught. "Your sister is kissing a stranger in public." Edward opened the image. He analysed it coldly. "This is gold, Mother. We can use this to remove her from the board. Inappropriate behaviour, compromising corporate image." "Edward, she's your sister, and she's embarrassing us." Margaret hung up, furious, but also worried. For the first time in years, Adeline seemed happy, and that frightened her more than any scandal. The next day, Adeline woke to 53 missed calls. When she finally checked the messages, she saw the photo. Her stomach turned. Sophie sent a message. "Love, you're in all the London gossip groups. Brace yourself." Adeline locked her mobile and went straight to the Roost Café. Hunter was at the counter, tense. "Did you see?" he asked. "I saw." "I'm sorry. I didn't imagine that old George was Cambridge's official paparazzo." She tried to joke, but her voice came out shaky. Hunter came out from behind the counter and hugged her. "It'll be all right." "It won't. You don't know my family. And you don't know mine." Something in his tone made her pull back. "What do you mean?" Hunter took a deep breath. It was time to tell the truth. "Adeline, I need to tell you something." The cafe door burst open. A tall man in an impeccable suit entered. Adeline immediately recognized the type. Corporate solicitor. "Miss Todd, who's asking?" "Edward Todd requests your immediate presence in London. Urgent board matters. Tell him I'm busy." The man handed her an envelope. "Then I'm instructed to deliver this." Adeline opened it. It was a court notice. Edward was filing an action to remove her from the Administrative Council for conduct incompatible with company values. Her hands trembled. Hunter held the paper. Is this serious? Very. Then well, sort it out together. Hunter, you don't understand. My family is powerful, influential, cruel. He finished. I know, so is mine. Adeline stared at him. What are you talking about? Before he could respond, another man entered the cafe, older with a hard look. Hunter, we need to talk, now. Hunter paled. Uncle Marcus. Adeline felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Uncle. Marcus Stevens smiled coldly. Miss Todd, it's a pleasure to finally meet the woman who's distracting my nephew from his responsibilities. Hunter Stevens. The world spun. Adeline looked at Hunter, seeking denial, explanation, anything, but he merely lowered his head. And she understood. The kind barista, the man who made her feel alive, was heir to the family her father hated, the family that destroyed businesses, manipulated tenders, ruined competing companies. He was a Stevens, and she, a Todd. The war had just begun. Adeline left the cafe without looking back. Her hands trembled so much she could barely open the car door. She got in, locked herself inside, and let the tears fall. Hunter Stevens. How was she so stupid? The mobile vibrated. It was Sophie. Addie, we need to talk. I don't want to speak to anyone. Then listen, the press is already ringing. Someone leaked that you're involved with the Stevens. Your mother's having a breakdown. Edwards convened an emergency meeting. Let them wait. Adeline, I said I don't want to talk, she shouted and hung up. She drove back to London on autopilot, Marcus Stevens' words echoing in her head. The woman who's distracting my nephew from his responsibilities. Responsibilities. As if she were a pastime, a distraction. When she arrived at the penthouse, Margaret was already waiting in the lounge, accompanied by Edward and 2 solicitors. Sit, the mother ordered. I'd rather stand. Sit! Adeline threw herself onto the sofa, exhausted. Edward crossed his arms. Do you have any notion of what you've done? I fell in love. What a horrible crime. With the Stevens, the family that's tried to destroy us 3 times in the last 5 years. I didn't know. And does that change anything? Margaret lit another electronic cigarette. The press is already calling it business Romeo and Juliet. You've become a joke, Adeline. Better to be a joke than be miserable. Miserable? Edward laughed bitterly. You live in a £3 million penthouse, have a driver, unlimited credit card, and think you're miserable? Yes, because none of that matters when you feel empty inside. Drama, Edward murmured. Enough! Margaret slammed her hand on the table. This ends now. You'll sign voluntary resignation from the board, you'll give an interview saying it was a misunderstanding, and you'll never see that young man again. No. What do you mean, no? No! Adeline shouted. I've spent my entire life doing what you command. I studied business because you wanted it. I joined the company because you demanded it. I married that idiot Marcus because you approved. And look what happened, a divorce and 2 years of therapy. Adeline, no! Now it's my turn to choose. She left, slamming the door. Meanwhile, in Cambridge, Hunter faced his own tempest. Marcus took him to the townhouse where he lived with his grandmother Beatrice. The old lady was in the kitchen preparing tea. Marcus, you're not welcome here, she said curtly. I've come to fetch my nephew. Your nephew is a grown man. He doesn't need fetching. Marcus ignored her and faced Hunter. Your father wants you in Westminster tomorrow. There's a meeting with hotel sector business people. You'll go. And you'll make public apologies for the scandal. I won't. It's not an option. Marcus, Hunter spoke slowly, controlled. I made it very clear 5 years ago that I no longer participate in that circus. You think you can live in that fantasy forever? Marcus stepped forward. Working in a cafe as if you were a nobody? I'd rather be a nobody than be like you lot. Careful what you say. Or what? You'll disinherit me. Please, do it. Free me. Marcus smiled coldly. I won't disinherit you. It'll destroy the girl. Hunter felt his blood freeze. What did you say? Adeline Todd. I'll expose every dirty secret, every flaw of hers. I'll make her life hell, unless, he made a dramatic pause, you return to the family and cut contact with her. You're sick. I'm practical. Choose, you or her. Beatrice banged the cup on the table. Marcus, leave my house. Now. With pleasure. He turned to Hunter. You have 48 hours. When Marcus left, Beatrice hugged her grandson. Don't let him manipulate you. Nan, if I don't do what he wants, hell destroy Adeline. And if you do, you'll destroy yourself. That's not choice, my boy. It's blackmail. Hunter sat on the chair, his head in his hands. I can't let her suffer because of me. Then fight, but alongside her, not running away. Meanwhile, in London, something unexpected happened. Violet, Adeline's grandmother, appeared at the penthouse at 11 at night. At 86 years old, she was the feared and respected matriarch of the family. Where's my granddaughter? Margaret paled. Mother, it's not a good time. I asked where Adeline is. In her room, refusing to come out. Violet climbed the stairs with surprising agility. She knocked on the door. Open up, girl. Adeline opened, her eyes red. Violet entered and sat on the bed. So you've fallen in love with a Stevens. Have you also come to judge me? No, I've come to tell you something. The old woman took a deep breath. Your grandfather, my William, was poor. He worked as a waiter. When I married him, my family disowned me. We went hungry, Adeline, but we were happy. Adeline's eyes widened. I didn't know, because nobody talks about it. But it was your grandfather who taught me about real love. He died 30 years ago, and I still miss him every day. Violet held her granddaughter's hand. If that young man makes you feel alive, fight for him. The money will end, the company will pass. But love, oh my dear, love is the only thing we take with us. Adeline hugged her grandmother and cried. But he lied to me, Nan. He protected you. It's different. How do you know? Because I'd do the same. The next morning, Adeline made a decision. She rang Hunter. He answered on the second ring. Adeline, you owe me an explanation. I know. Will you meet me? Where we met? When? Now. She took the car and drove straight to Cambridge. When she entered the Roost Cafe, her heart nearly leapt out of her chest. Hunter was there, waiting, and they had much to discuss. But fate still prepared another twist. Because at that exact moment, Edward Todd and Thomas Stevens, Hunter's brother, were arranging a meeting in Westminster. They had a plan to destroy the romance once and for all, and it involved betrayal, lies, and a trap that neither of them expected. The Roost Cafe was closed. Hunter placed the closed for stock-taking sign on the door and waited. When Adeline entered, he felt his chest tighten. She was pale, her eyes tired, but still the most beautiful person he'd ever seen. Hi, he said, his voice hoarse. Hi. They remained silent for a few seconds that seemed eternal. I didn't mean to deceive you, Hunter began. When you came in here that day, I genuinely didn't know who you were. I found out later, and when I did, he ran his hand through his hair. I should have told you, but I was afraid. Afraid of what? That you'd hate me. That you'd think I was using you, of losing the only good thing that's happened in my life in years. Adeline sat in one of the chairs. Your family tried to destroy mine 3 times. They sabotaged tenders, bribed inspectors, spread lies in the press. I know, and I hate it. That's why I left. That's why I'm here, far from everything. But you're still a Stevens, and you're still a Todd. He knelt in front of her. But when I'm with you, I'm not an heir, not a politician's son, not any of that. I'm just me, the bloke who makes coffee and dreams of a simple life. Tears rolled down her face. Hunter, this is impossible. Our families will never accept it. Then we create our own family. It's not that simple. I know, but I love you. He said it without beating about the bush. And if you give me a chance, I'll prove we can win this together. Adeline closed her eyes. All logic, all sense told her to leave and never return, but her heart was stronger than reason. I love you too, she whispered. Hunter pulled her into a desperate kiss, as if it were the last, And perhaps it was. Because at that exact moment, in Westminster, Edward Todd and Thomas Stevens were shaking hands on an agreement. "So it's settled," said Thomas. "We leak information that Hunter's using your sister to gain access to the hotel group's contracts, and plant evidence that he's investigating our company to benefit the Stevens," Edward completed. "Perfect. In 48 hours, this romance turns to dust." They didn't know that Jack, the cafe owner and Hunter's best friend, was at the next table, pretending to read the newspaper. He heard everything, and immediately rang Hunter. "Mate, you won't believe what I've just heard." Meanwhile, in London, Sophie received a strange call. "Hello? Miss Sophie Morgan. This is Walters and Associates Solicitors. You've been cited in proceedings filed by Mr. Edward Todd against Miss Adeline Todd. We need your testimony." "Testimony about what?" "About her relationship with Mr. Hunter Stevens and possible irregularities." Sophie hung up and immediately rang Adeline. "Addie, your brother's plotting something big. Has cited me in proceedings." Adeline felt her blood freeze. "What sort of proceedings?" "I don't know, but it involves you and Hunter." Hunter, who was beside her, heard everything on speakerphone. "They're trying to separate us with lawsuits and lies," he said, his jaw set. "But they won't succeed. Hunter, my brother's capable of anything. He can destroy your life, and my uncle can destroy yours. So we're even." He held her face with both hands. "But the difference is that now we're not alone." That night something unusual happened. Beatrice, Hunter's grandmother, rang Violet, Adeline's grandmother. "Mrs. Violet, this is Beatrice Stevens." There was a tense silence. "Beatrice, how long has it been?" 30 years, since William's funeral." Violet sighed. "Do you remember him?" "Of course. Your husband was a good man. He didn't deserve to be defamed by my brothers-in-law." "So you know." "I know, and it disgusts me to this day." Beatrice paused. "Violet, our grandchildren are in love, and our families will destroy them if we don't do something. What do you propose?" "An alliance between two old women who have nothing left to lose." Violet laughed, really laughed. "Beatrice, you were always mad, I accept." 2 days later, the unthinkable happened. The two matriarchs convened a joint family meeting. Mandatory. The meeting was arranged in a neutral hall, hired by Violet. Margaret arrived furious. Lord Richard and Lady Charlotte Stevens likewise. Edward and Thomas seemed confused. Marcus was visibly irritated. Violet and Beatrice entered together arm in arm. "What's the meaning of this?" asked Margaret. "It means you're going to listen to us," Violet replied curtly. "Sit." Everyone sat, tense. Beatrice began. 50 years ago, our families were friends. Oliver Todd and Richard Stevens studied together. They were practically brothers." Richard frowned. "That was before Marcus sabotaged Oliver's first project and stole the credit," Violet completed. "Yes, we know. We've always known." Marcus paled. "That's a lie." "It isn't." Beatrice threw a folder on the table. "I have proof. Documents, emails, recordings, everything saved for decades." The silence was absolute. "If this information leaks," Violet continued, "the Stevens' political career ends, and the Todd's reputation too, because you've covered up corruption for years." "This is blackmail!" Edward shouted. "No, it's paperwork," Violet replied, impassive. "You have two options. Leave Adeline and Hunter in peace, or we hand everything to the Serious Fraud Office." Lady Charlotte, always calculating, asked, "Why would you do this? Destroy both families?" "Because family isn't a surname," said Beatrice. "It's love, and you've forgotten that." Margaret looked at her mother, betrayed. "Mother, you wouldn't do this. I've done worse to protect those I love. You should try it sometime." The meeting ended in tense silence, but everyone knew the matriarchs had won. 2 weeks later, Adeline and Hunter were on the veranda of the Cambridge country house watching the sunset. "I still can't believe your Nan and my Nan joined forces against everyone," said Adeline, laughing. "They're incredible and terrifying." "Perfect." Hunter pulled her into a slow kiss. "And now?" "Now we live," said Adeline, "without fear." But there was one more surprise. Adeline had a plan. She resigned from her position at Todd Hotels and with her own money bought land in Cambridge. There, she'd build a boutique sustainable hotel focused on cultural tourism and local gastronomy. Hunter would become a partner, managing the hotel cafe. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, looking at the project plans. "Absolutely. For the first time in my life, I'm building something mine. Ours. I love you so much. I love you too. Now kiss me and stop being soppy." He obeyed, laughing. From across the square, old George observed everything from his bench, mobile at the ready. "Everyone, confirmed. They're opening a hotel together. I told you it'd end in marriage." Jack, who was passing by, rolled his eyes. "George, you're an incorrigible gossip." "Not a gossip. Independent investigative journalist of the square." Sophie, who was visiting Adeline, laughed. "That old man's a menace, but a menace I adore," said Adeline. And so between coffees, gossip, warrior grandmothers and chaotic families, Adeline and Hunter proved that love doesn't need a surname to be real. It just needs courage. Epilogue. 1 year later, the Roost Hotel was inaugurated on a sunny Saturday afternoon. The name was a homage to the cafe where everything began, and Jack nearly cried when he found out, but denied it vehemently. The ceremony was simple, but full of dear people. Violet and Beatrice cut the ribbon together under emotional applause. Sophie appeared in a scandalous red dress and took selfies with everyone. Old George was appointed official hotel gossip ambassador, a position created especially for him with lifetime free coffee. Margaret attended, silent, but with a slight smile on her face when she saw her daughter radiant. Edward didn't come. Thomas didn't either. Lord Richard and Lady Charlotte sent flowers, probably on Beatrice's orders, but stayed in Westminster. Marcus was responding to an inquiry at the Serious Fraud Office. Apparently, Violet and Beatrice weren't joking. The hotel was beautiful. Architecture that blended rustic and modern, hanging gardens, an incredible cafe on the ground floor, run by Hunter and Jack in partnership, and cozy rooms decorated with local art. In the main hall, a framed phrase on the wall: "Sometimes, love disguises itself as routine. You just need to look carefully. H.S." In the evening, there was a small party, just for close friends. Sophie drank too much and tried to convince Jack to dance. He resisted for 10 minutes before giving up and spinning her around the improvised dance floor. "They'll end up together," said Adeline, watching from afar. "Bet?" Hunter teased. "I bet a kiss." "Accepted. Because I always win." She pulled him to dance, and it was perfect. Not because it was an elaborate party, or because they were in a sophisticated place, but because they were together, building something real. Later, when everyone had left, Adeline and Hunter remained alone on the hotel veranda, watching the city lights. "Do you regret anything?" he asked. "Not a single second. And you?" "Only not meeting you sooner." She laughed and rested her head on his shoulder. "I think we met at the right time, when we were finally ready to be ourselves." Hunter kissed the top of her head. "I promise I'll make you coffee every day for the rest of your life, and I promise to love you in all of them." From afar, in the old townhouse where she lived, Beatrice observed the hotel lights through the window. Biscuit, the caramel mongrel, slept at her feet. On the other side of the city, Violet did the same, with Wellington purring on her lap. The two old women smiled, each in her own home, because they knew they'd won the most important battle: love against hatred, freedom against imprisonment, choice against imposition. And in the end, what mattered wasn't the surname you carried. It was the name of whom you chose to love. Adeline Todd and Hunter Stevens chose each other, and that choice changed everything. 2 months later, a wedding invitation arrived at Violet's and Beatrice's homes. "You're invited to witness our yes. Because without you, we wouldn't have made it here." The wedding was in the hotel garden, with flowering jacaranda trees and a guitar playing British folk in the background. Adeline wore a simple white linen dress. Hunter, a light shirt and tailored trousers. There was no pomp, there was no ostentation, there was love, true, imperfect, courageous. And when they said, "I do," old George cried like a baby and posted in the group, "Everyone, I told you, romance of the century. I was the one who saw it first." Violet and Beatrice laughed so hard they nearly fell off their chairs. And so, between coffees, laughter, gossip, and second chances, Adeline discovered that being a millionaire was never about money. It was about having someone who loved you exactly as you are. And Hunter, the barista disguised as an heir, proved that sometimes the greatest act of courage isn't facing the world. It's choosing love every day without fear. So, did you enjoy this story? If you were moved, laughed, or rooted for Adeline and Hunter, please hit that like button below. Subscribe to the channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to receive notifications, because that way you'll help me continue bringing incredible stories like this one to you. Your like and subscription make all the difference, so more people can be moved by good stories of love, overcoming, and courage. Thanks so much for your kindness, and see you next time.